there's plenty of creeks to choose from. So, what I wanted to ask you is, what would elevate? Like, how are you picking a creek to go and scout when you have 10, 15 different creek drainages available to you? Like, what are the factors that make one better than another?
It's gonna depend. It's gonna start at aerial photos. Um, that's my number one starting goal because you can get 10,000, 40,000, 100,000, whatever acres of pretty much the same thing. It seems like the whole thing is just, it looks like hardwoods. You look at an aerial photo from the wintertime pictures, it looks like open hardwoods, creek drainage in the bottom, and it goes up to another giant open hardwood, ridge. It drops down. It's just monotonous. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Over here, you got a lot of pockets of private land and public land, and more private, public, private, public. And those private land people, some of them want to cut timber. Some of them want to grow big deer. Some of them want to, grow a cornfield or bean field or whatever. So you've got your aerial photos will tell you every bit of what you need to know. Whether, let's say, like some spots on the river up here, you've got maybe an island of thicket. There ain't many really open hardwoods on the river around here. You'll get little patches of openings in the hardwoods, but it'll drop down to a creek or a river or whatever. Go up to the other side. It may be cornfield, bean field, maybe a block of pines with food plots in it. And a lot of people around here are doing summer food plots. Everybody's running corn. For God's sake, I mean, a co-op could, if you bought stock in corn, you could be a millionaire. It may come up to a big lake up there, a big bar pit, sand pit, sage grass and briars and all that kind of stuff. Basically, all it's going to come down to is I need to see potential bedding on one side and potential food on the other side. And from then, I'm going to go in and I'm going to walk that creek. You're going to run into cottonmouths and all that stuff. You just kind of carry a big old piece of cane with you and whop them on the head if you have to, or flick them out of the way. I prefer to whop them on the head, and just walk that creek and find crossings. If there's a bunch of crossings, we can work with this. If there's like one or two over a 500-yard stretch, the population's either low or something is going on, because I don't want to see that. Now, some of those spots you can throw a camera. If there's two crossings, it makes it real easy to check and just set a camera on them. Might leave a camera on that for 2 weeks, come back, and you'll have a bunch of bobcats and cranes and a deer here, a deer there. But generally speaking, you want a lot of crossings in one short, tight area. And it gets really fun in rifle season, because you can take you a chair and some waders and set your chair up and kind of back up into that creek bank. If you can see 150, 100, 200 yards, whatever, down that creek and cover 6 crossings, that's fun right there.
Okay.
But yeah, it all comes back to potential bedding, potential food, or potential bedding, or food. I mean, who knows? I just need something to tell me that there's possibly some traffic back and forth.
Yeah, I was just about to bring up, what about a creek that's got just two thicket hellholes on both sides of it, two clear cuts on both sides that are like 4 or 5 years old, just briars, pine trees, you name it.
Rut.
Just nasty.
Rut. Get in between them things. If there's any kind of a straightaway that you can see multiple crossings during the rut, that's awesome. But you also want to be able to see a actual creek bank itself, because those bucks will run back and forth. They may run 100 yards down, wind checking this side, and then drop down and go over to the other side, and then keep going north. But there may be an obstacle somewhere on this side or whatever. But yeah, that's not typically what I want for the early season. But during the rut, that can be deadly, especially if there's multiple fresh crossings. Because those does, when they start getting pressured, they start seeking cover, and those bucks try to go find them.
Lane, can you give us the story? I don't think it was the deer you explained earlier, but the 156 you killed on October the 3rd. Well, you said he was very consistent. How did that hunt kind of play out from like the time you located him to like trying to like fine tune where he was coming from, and what did the setup look like the day you actually killed him?
Well, to be honest, I didn't need to know where he was coming from. I just needed to know that I knew he was coming from what would be the south side of this creek, because this creek came down north to south, and then it bent and did a hard dog leg for about 200 yards, and then it cut back to the south again. So I was getting his picture right there, like I said, like 6 days a week, 5, 6 days a week. And I was like, dude, cool front. This is going to be great. The only issue I had was the creek came from the north to the south, bent back, and then went back to the south. And he was coming from the south. So I knew with a northwest wind, I could probably work it in my favor for a bow if I got tight enough I could shoot, but far enough away that I wasn't too worried. So what I ended up finding was I found a tree that was about 20 yards on the south side of this creek. So I knew when the winds stopped in the evening, when it started to fall and those thermals went down, I would be far enough away from the creek that they didn't come down to the creek and maybe suck back towards them. Or they could go that way, but you never know the way these thermals work inside the creek itself. So I got off the creek about 20 yards, and I could see the big trail coming down. I don't know what you call this green grass. It looks like long, sharp stems of cane, but it's soft. You can like squeeze it.
Yeah.
And it gets knee high, thigh high,
Uh-huh.
And it was just like a cattle trail running through that stuff. So I got 20 yards off of it, got on the backside of the tree, and I kind of I was running a lock on, and I set my stand to where I could peek around it and see him coming. And then I could draw when he got behind the tree, and just as soon as he stepped out, I could shoot him. That's how it played out. But had I hunted the northern side of that creek, I probably never would have seen him because of the way the thermals would work. The wind was blowing, all that. I had to get on the south side of that creek. But it's just one of those deer that happens every now and then where he's just dumb and set in his ways. And I hate to call him dumb, but it's just ignorance on his part because he doesn't know any better. That he was so consistent. You'll find those time to time, but they're not the normal. Most bucks are just like scatterbrained, and they decide one day when they get up, I'm going to go down here and try some of this honeysuckle or whatever. One day I want to go over here, or maybe a group of does comes by, and he's just like, oh, I'll just follow them. And he hops up and just follows in. You'll see that pretty regular. Just a group of does come through and a buck just following them, feeding on the same thing that they're feeding, but not, messing with them at all. It's just a hot food source, and he just followed them there. So there's so many variables about hunting. I just kind of stick to that KISS method.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm the stupid in that role. So the simpler I can keep it, the better.